Every midnight, a ghostly train is heard rushing through the outskirts of town, even though no railway has existed there for decades. People have vanished while standing next to the tracks, and those who jumped aboard the train were never seen again. It sounded like an old wives' tale until one day a young man named Amir decided to test it out for himself. Amir was a skeptic. He didn't believe in ghosts or legends, so he thought he would wait by the tracks in the thick fog that always accompanied the train. Armed with a lantern, he stood silently in the darkness as the clock tower nearby chimed 12 times. Then he heard it, a faint whistle in the distance that grew louder and louder until it shook the ground beneath his feet. As the light from the train illuminated the fog, Amir saw a shimmering silver train roaring past, filled with passengers dressed in old-fashioned clothes. He could hear their whispers, their coughs, and the sound of their footsteps on the train. And although the train was moving at an alarming speed, it seemed to glide effortlessly above the tracks. Before Amir could react, the train had passed and vanished into the darkness. But something inside him compelled him to jump aboard. As he did, he felt a sudden jolt and heard the sound of shattering glass. Looking back, he saw his lantern lying on the tracks, its light extinguished. When he turned around, he noticed that inside the train, no one was speaking, but all eyes were fixed straight ahead, staring intently into the darkness. It was then that Amir realized that none of the passengers had faces. They were all merely shadows, and as he looked out of the window, he saw not the outside world, but strange glimpses of different time periods. He saw men in kilts fighting with swords, people celebrating with fireworks in a bustling city that looked like it had been destroyed by a tsunami. There were lovers holding hands, children chasing butterflies, and elderly people tending to a garden. It dawned on him that the train was not bound for any particular destination, and it was not moving through time. Instead, it was carrying lost souls who never reached their destinations while alive. As Amir continued to observe the passengers, he noticed that they were all engaged in the activities they had been doing when they died. Some were absorbed in their books, others in their games, while many simply stared vacantly ahead. They were trapped in a state of limbo, condemned to travel the tracks for eternity without ever reaching their final destination. A sense of foreboding washed over Amir, and he realized that he had made a terrible mistake by boarding the train. He wanted to get off, but every time the train stopped, which it did every few minutes, the doors didn't open, and when he pulled on them, they were locked. Suddenly, a man in a conductor's uniform appeared beside him. "Can you help me?" Amir asked frantically. The conductor looked at him with an expressionless stare. "Once aboard, there is no return," he said in a voice that echoed through the train. With that, the conductor vanished, leaving Amir alone in the spectral train filled with the lost souls that rattled along the tracks into the abyss of the night. As the train traveled, more and more passengers boarded. Soon, Amir found himself sitting next to an old woman who stared straight ahead with vacant eyes. In her lap sat a basket filled with what looked like kittens. As he peered closer, he realized that they were mummies. Overcome with a sense of dread, Amir tried to stand up, but his legs felt heavy as lead, and when he looked down, he saw that his shoes were no longer his own. They were old and worn, like the shoes of a tramp. Struggling to free himself from the oppressive grip of the train, he stumbled toward the door and pulled on it with all his might. But it wouldn't budge. Then suddenly, the old woman beside him spoke in a raspy voice. "Where are you going? Why do you want to leave?" "I just want to get home," Amir replied, his voice trembling. "There's nothing for you there anymore," she said, her eyes still fixed on the darkness ahead. "You're not from here, and neither am I. We're just passing through." As she spoke, the train lurched to a halt, and the old woman leaned towards him, her face inches from his. "Do you remember the fog?" she whispered, her breath cold and clammy on his skin. "Do you remember the train?" And then she was gone. The train rattled on, and the passengers around Amir began to disembark, melting into the shadows as they stepped off the train. They disappeared into the mist, their forms dissolving like smoke in the wind. When the train stopped again, Amir stumbled out onto the tracks. He looked back, but the train and its passengers were gone. All that remained was his lantern, lying on the tracks, its light extinguished. And as he walked away, he could have sworn he heard the sound of shattering glass behind him. If you enjoyed this chilling tale, please give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends. For more terrifying stories, don't forget to subscribe.